Today I'll talk about core strength for racing, I'll talk about circuit training for racing, and then I'll talk about how you can learn from some of the guys in the NBA and use that information to help you with your riding and racing. Hey guys, welcome to MotoFit TV, episode number 32. Today I'm going to be talking about core strength. So I wasn't 100% sure on what to talk about today on our episode. So I decided to Google motocross fitness and have a look at all the things that come up on Google and some of the most popular search results that people are tending to look at. So I wanted to talk about them a little bit. So first of all, one of the things that I found that was coming up a fair bit was this continuation of core strength. You've got to have a strong core, okay, and that's super important for riding and racing. Now, having a strong core is very important for riding and racing, but there's different ways in which you can actually train the core to be able to work. Now, most riders and racers go down the wrong path of training the core, and they're doing a whole heap of sit-ups or a whole heap of V-ups and a whole heap of these bodybuilding type abdominal exercises to be able to help with their riding and racing. Now, in terms of helping with your riding and racing, the transfer from these types of exercises is actually going to be very limited, purely because we're isolating a specific muscle group. So bodybuilders use isolation exercises to smash a particular muscle group, okay, to be able to tear the muscle fibers so that they're able to repair themselves and come back a little bit bigger, and that's how they help to build size and also build strength as well. For motocross, for riding and racing, we don't need to tear the muscles severely. We don't need to have that excessive growth. We don't need to isolate a specific area. What we want is performance. So there's two routes with your training. There's the performance side, and then there's the body composition side, maybe the muscle building side, okay? There's different components of training. What we're focusing on is the performance side. So we want to make sure that everything we're doing is going to be able to increase your performance and athleticism on the bike. We're not too worried or concerned about how you look, although that's a side effect and something that will change. Obviously, your body composition is going to change. You're going to look better when we're chasing that performance, but it's not the sole goal. It's not what we're chasing. So with our core strength, what you need to be able to make sure is that, again, we're coming back to those multi-joint strength training movements. Movements which are using multiple muscle groups, okay, using muscles from head to toe to be able to get your body to be able to move as it's moving on the bike. What this allows you to be able to, the body to be able to do is teach the core to actually be able to work together with the upper body and with the lower body and with the upper body and get them working together as a system. And that's very important because when you're on the bike, you don't have your core working by yourself, or you don't have your lower body working by yourself, or your upper body working by yourself. They're all working together as one big system. So you need to make sure you train them like that. Whereas most riders and racers don't train them like that. They train each individual body part separately and then hope that somehow when they get on the bike, they're all going to be able to work together. So you need to be able to make sure you're using multi-joint movements, things like squats, deadlifts, overhead pressing, okay, bent over rows, things like that, using a barbell and weights and working on developing strength with those movements because that's going to develop your core strength. Then you can dig into those movements and go, okay, how can I perform these movements better? How can I get better at my squatting? How can I get better at my deadlifting? How can I get better at overhead pressing? And that's probably more where a coach comes in because they can give you cues on how to be able to correct your movement. And there's always things you can learn, okay? I've been doing this for years and years and I'm still learning things, still improving things with my movement. So don't ever think that you get to a point where you can't learn anymore, that you know how to squat, that you know how to deadlift, because there's always things you need to be working on and getting better at. When you work on getting better at those movements and more efficient, that means we're teaching your body to be more efficient, okay, or better at that movement pattern. So you know when you do your 4 sets of 12, say, of deadlifts and you did it at 50 kilos and now in a couple of weeks you're doing it at 60 kilos, then that's awesome because that means you've got more efficient at that movement pattern. Because you've got more efficient at that, that means it's going to be easier when you turn up on the bike. When you're out there on race day, you're going to be moving more efficiently. So it's all about finding those little tweaks, little changes in your training with those particular movements to make sure that they're more efficient, because then we know that they're going to transfer directly to our riding and racing, and we're going to carry that efficiency there. So the multi-joint movements actually teach your core to work with your lower body and upper body, whereas when we do sit-ups, okay, and maybe like V-ups and exercises like that, and other different core exercises, we're not teaching the upper body to work together with the lower body. We're isolating the core. So we're doing the complete opposite of how the body works on the weekend. So yes, it may be helpful, okay, doing sit-ups. If you're doing nothing, then yeah, that's gonna be awesome, okay? But in terms of getting optimal results and peak performance from your training, you don't wanna be spending all your time doing sit-ups. You wanna be spending all your time doing multi-joint movements which are working on that core strength, because it takes a lot of core strength to be able to back squat with 50 kilos, 100 kilos, 150 kilos on your back. It takes a lot more core strength to be able to do that, and it's a lot more usable in terms of what's happening on the bike, because our body's working together as a system rather than doing sit-ups with weight plates, okay, or GHD sit-ups and things like that. You want the body working together as a system. So that was the first thing that came up, was a lot of core strength when I was Googling through. The other thing that came up, was coming up a lot, is everyone seems to, and there's a lot of other coaches out there, fitness guys, or even professional riders and racers, okay, that have, or trainers that have worked with high-level racers. And everyone's, a lot of riders and racers, a lot of trainers are going down the circuit training route, okay? So they have different stations of different workouts that they move around to, they get their riders and racers to do. And that's really, really awesome for conditioning, okay? They use some lighter weights, they do some kettlebell swings, maybe some overhead pressing with some light weights, some body weight squats, some push-ups, some sit-ups, whatever, okay? That's awesome. In terms of the conditioning side, really good. What it does do though is it neglects the whole strength side of things. Okay, a lot of trainers have that focus on not using heavy weights and just being able to focus on the circuit training. Okay, so they just focus on using lighter weights because they say that, okay, this is resembling what's happening on the bike. But if you look deeper into the strength and conditioning side, so this is not looking at motocross side, this is looking at strength and conditioning and how strength and conditioning works. Strength builds up all of those components that you'll use in circuit training. So if you look at things like CrossFit, so for those of you who know a little bit of my background, used to compete in CrossFit a few years back now. Okay, that's how I first got into strength and conditioning about 7 years ago. That's how I first got into the strength and conditioning side before I started to specialize and break things down into specifically for riders and racers rather than general training. And if you look at a lot of the top CrossFit guys, okay, so the guys that just had the CrossFit Games recently, which is the best of the best in the world, okay, they don't do circuit training. They don't do a lot of CrossFit workouts. They do strength and conditioning, okay? They'll have a primary focus on developing strength and getting stronger. If you look at these guys' numbers for Olympic lifting and for powerlifting, they're through the roof. They're much, much higher than the average person. And that's what allows them to be so good when they go to the CrossFit Games, when they do these CrossFit workouts, when they do circuit training, okay, because they've got that level of strength. So the same thing comes back to your training going, okay, if you want to really be good at that circuit training, that's awesome, but doing circuit training may not be the most efficient way to actually build that fitness. Having a higher level of strength is going to be something that's going to help you with that circuit training. So if you're doing, say, a workout, okay, and you've got push-ups, you've got squats, and you've got maybe pull-ups, okay? If you've got those three movements in a particular workout and you're doing circuit training with those, all at body weight, okay? So we've got push-ups, we've got squats, and we've got pull-ups. Think about how fast you would move through with your current level of strength. Now, let's say that we can keep you at relatively the same body weight, but we double your strength, okay? So maybe before you were able to squat 50 kilos on a bar, now you can squat 100 kilos on the bar. What do you feel is going to happen to those bodyweight squats? What are those bodyweight squats going to feel like when you go and do the circuit training? Now that you have a 100 kilo squat, obviously they're going to feel a heap easier. Same with a push-up. If we can get your bench press and improve your bench press, okay, and double that, then how your push-up's going to feel? Much, much easier. So we don't need to spend all our time doing bodyweight stuff. Although it's effective, it's just going to string out the process. Results we could have gotten 4, 6, 12 weeks are now going to take us 6 months, 8 months, 12 months to be able to get. So the strength is the most important thing. Although circuit training and all these other methods may work, the strength is what backs that stuff all up, because when you have that strength, that allows you to be able to progress. So that's another thing that I picked up, was working on strength. The other thing that I picked up is that there's a lot of riders and racers that have been professional. I did a live stream on this the other day. Wasn't very good with the whiteboard, but there's a lot of riders and racers that have been professional riders and racers, have done really well, and then they've decided to go and coach, okay? And that's awesome, okay? It's good that they want to be able to pass on their expertise. The problem with riding and racing though, or the problem with motorsport, with motocross, is the level of money in the sport compared to other sports. So if you look at, say, like the NBA, you look at the UFC, you look at tennis, okay, in comparison to motocross, the guy at the top, I was watching the other day with my partner, The NBA, one of the guys in the NBA gets paid $50 million a year, okay, for like the next 4 years. It's like a 4-year contract, $50 million a year, okay, to be able to go and play basketball. And you compare that to the top guys in motocross in the world, okay, they might be lucky to be getting 7 figures, okay, and that's right at the top of the sport, okay. There's probably only not even a handful of those guys getting those sort of numbers. But in the NBA, okay, getting 7 figures is like what the guys get drafted in, okay. They're not even the guys that aren't even playing. So you need to take that into account, that other sports, when you look at it like that, if we've got the top of our sport is 7 figures and the top of their sport is 50 million, okay, so looking at 8 figures, it's 50 times bigger than motocross. So in terms of the total money that's invested into each athlete and invested into each person to be able to compete is very, very different. If you look at an NBA team, one of the courses I'm doing with Precision Nutrition, one of the guys there, or John Berardi runs the Precision Nutrition. One of his guys that I've been doing a little bit of mentoring with doing one of their courses with for the nutrition side of things is the coach or the nutritionist for the Spurs, okay, which is for those of you who don't follow NBA, is an NBA team. Wicked, right? But when you look at the NBA team, okay, these particular guys don't go and do nutrition and do strength and do conditioning and do mindset, okay, and do psychology and then teach them how to throw the basketball. When you look at an NBA team, okay, where there's a heap of money, so it's one of the sports you want to be able to look at, is they have different coaches for different things. They'll have a nutritionist. They might have a psychologist. They have if you look at like UFC, Conor McGregor has a movement coach, Ido Portal, okay, or Ido Portal, I don't know how to pronounce it properly, but he has a movement coach that he works with, and he has a strength coach, they have fitness coaches, they have nutritionists, okay? All these people are all separated because they're all experts in their individual area. They have another guy that works on maybe like jiu-jitsu or boxing, okay? And then they have another coach to be able to work on different areas. And then they pay other people, like for, I was watching a podcast with Joe Rogan and Ronda Rousey. Ronda Rousey's coach will pay other boxers or pay other people that are experts in their specific discipline, maybe that's boxing, maybe that's jiu-jitsu, maybe it's wrestling, to come and actually practice with Ronda to be able to get her better. That's the type of money that's in those sports, and that's the type of education and research that goes into what those athletes are doing. When you look at motocross, we have the guys at the very, very top of the sport earning 7 figures are lucky to have one coach, okay, that tries to do everything. It's like a jack of all trades. They're like a riding mentor, they're a racing mentor, they're helping them with their bike skills, okay, they're helping them with their training, their conditioning, nutrition. So everything just gets diluted, everything gets cut down, because this one person is expected to be able to do everything. And that's purely because the top level riders and racers or teams don't have the funds to be able to do what the NBA does. So what that means is that things are a little bit behind all the other sports in the world. Obviously everyone's in the motocross bubble, okay, or the motorsport bubble. So everyone looks at what those guys are doing and they don't venture out. I suppose the advantage that I have is that I'm able to step back from the motocross side of things and look at the other sports and learn from what they're doing, and then bring that to the motorsport industry to be able to help lift the standard of what's in motocross, okay, what's in riding and racing. So it's important to be able to look at what those sports are doing and then be able to take that information across, because at the moment there's a lot of just professional riders and racers, or guys that have worked with professional riders and racers, okay, that are helping riders and racers and giving out information, which is awesome. But what we need to be able to do is make sure that information we're taking in is maybe the right information, number one, but maybe there is better ways of doing things. Maybe just because Ryan Dungey or James Stewart or Valentino Rossi or this person or that person does this particular exercise, maybe that's not what you need to be doing when we look at sporting as a whole, when we look at strength and conditioning as a whole, rather than just focusing on this one narrow group in terms of motocross. Being able to look at everything and take the best of the best from different sports and then use that for your sport. So that were the 3 main things that I picked up just from doing a quick Google search, and I thought some of you guys may find that useful with help with regards to maybe some of the myths in training and some of the things that are quite popular that maybe are helpful, maybe are misleading, maybe there's better ways of doing things. So if you guys need help with this stuff, this is the stuff that I learned from the best of the best. If you guys want help with this stuff, I've got room for 3 strategy calls this week. So the calls go for about an hour, okay? And what we'll do is we'll run through your training model, we'll run through your nutrition, go through some of the concepts that I've learned, and see what we need to apply to your training model to be able to double your race fitness over the coming months. So if you want one of those calls, feel free to register on the link above. 3 spots, so make sure you register if you want a spot, get in quick. And yeah, we can run through everything, run through all your training, run through all your nutrition, run through your mobility work, okay? Run through exactly what you need to work towards and then put a strict action plan in place for the coming months so that we can implement something and be able to get you there, okay? Make some solid progress. So if you're keen on that, register above. Look forward to speaking to you guys soon. See ya.